The Little Flower, the story of Saint Thérèse of Lisieux.
Before we begin tonight's story, take a slow, deep breath and let it gently fall away. Let your shoulders soften. Let the day loosen its grip. You are safe, you are warm, and you are right where you need to be. Tonight, we drift into a quiet little world where the evenings smell of roses and the air feels soft with peace. A world touched by kindness, simplicity, and a heart that loved gently and fully. Settle in, breathe once more, and let the calm unfold around you. Once upon a time, in a cozy house in the town of Alençon, France, a baby girl was born on January 2nd, 1873. Her parents, Louis and Zélie Martin, already had 4 daughters, and they welcomed this new little one with joy and thanksgiving. They named her Marie-Françoise Thérèse, but everyone called her simply Thérèse. Thérèse was the baby of the family, and from her very first days, she was surrounded by love. Her mother, Zélie, was a skilled lace maker who ran her own business, and her father, Louis, was a watchmaker and jeweler. But more than anything, they were people of deep faith who filled their home with prayer, laughter, and kindness. The Martin family wasn't rich, but their home was warm and happy. 4-year-old Céline became Thérèse's special playmate and best friend. The older sisters, Marie, Pauline, and Léonie, doted on the baby, taking turns holding her and playing with her. But when Thérèse was only 4 years old, something terrible happened. Her beloved mother became sick with breast cancer. Little Thérèse watched as her mother grew weaker and weaker, until one summer day in 1877, Zélie died, leaving Louis to raise 5 daughters alone. Thérèse was too young to fully understand death, but she understood that her mother was gone. She felt a terrible sadness settle over her young heart like a heavy blanket. "I choose Pauline to be my mama now," little Thérèse announced, clinging to her older sister. Pauline, who was 16, wrapped her arms around the tiny girl and promised to take care of her. The family moved to a new town called Lisieux to be near Zélie's brother and his family. They found a lovely house called Les Buissonnets, the Little Bushes, with a garden where flowers bloomed and birds sang. Louis tried to make it a happy home for his daughters, taking them on walks, telling them stories, and calling them by special pet names. Thérèse was his little queen, and she adored her father with all her heart. But despite the love around her, Thérèse had become an extremely sensitive child. She cried easily over everything. If someone looked at her wrong, she cried. If she made a mistake, she cried. If someone corrected her, she cried. And then she would cry because she had cried. "I was unbearable," Thérèse would later say, "with my excessive touchiness." She was also quite vain and particular. She wanted everything to be perfect. If someone folded her doll's clothes the wrong way, she would get upset. If things didn't go exactly as she expected, tears would flow. Her family was patient with her, but Thérèse herself was frustrated. Even as a small child, she sensed that she was meant for something more than crying over trifles. But she didn't know how to change. She attended a school run by Benedictine nuns, but school was difficult for her. The other girls sometimes teased her for being so sensitive, and Thérèse felt lonely and out of place. Only at home, especially in the evenings with her father and sisters, did she feel truly happy. Every Sunday evening was special. Thérèse and Céline would sit with their father Louis in his little study room, which they called the Belvedere. He would tell them stories, and Thérèse would sit on his lap feeling completely safe and loved. "You are my little queen," Louis would say, stroking her golden hair. And Thérèse would nestle against him, treasuring these precious moments. But another great change was coming, one that would shake Thérèse's world once again. When Thérèse was 9 years old, her beloved Pauline, the sister who had become like a mother to her, made an announcement that broke Thérèse's heart. "I'm going to become a nun," Pauline said gently. "I'm entering the Carmelite monastery here in Lisieux." Thérèse was devastated. First she had lost her mother, and now she was losing Pauline too. The Carmelite monastery was a place of strict enclosure, which meant that once Pauline entered, Thérèse would hardly ever see her. They couldn't live together anymore. They couldn't talk freely anymore. Everything would change. "Why?" little Thérèse asked, tears streaming down her face. "Why do you have to leave me?" Pauline knelt down and took Thérèse's hands. "Because God is calling me," she said softly. "I love you so much, but I love God even more, and He wants me to serve Him in this special way. Do you understand?" Thérèse tried to understand, but it hurt so much. Then something stirred in her heart. A thought, a feeling, an idea that seemed to come from somewhere beyond herself. "If you're going to the Carmel," Thérèse said quietly, "then I'm going too. Someday, I'm going to become a Carmelite nun just like you." She was only 9 years old, but she meant it with all her heart. Not long after Pauline entered the monastery, Thérèse became very ill. She developed terrible headaches and began having strange episodes where she would shake uncontrollably, unable to recognize her family. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. Was it a nervous illness brought on by grief? Some kind of fever? No one knew. For weeks, Thérèse suffered. Her family prayed desperately for her healing. They placed a statue of Mary, the mother of Jesus, in Thérèse's room, and the family gathered around it to pray. One day, as Thérèse lay in bed feeling terribly sick and frightened, she looked at the statue, and suddenly something miraculous happened. The statue seemed to come alive. Mary smiled at Thérèse, a smile so beautiful, so full of love and tenderness, that all Thérèse's pain and fear melted away in an instant. She felt completely healed, completely whole, wrapped in a mother's love. "She smiled at me," Thérèse whispered in wonder. "Our Lady smiled at me." From that moment, Thérèse was completely well. The mysterious illness vanished as suddenly as it had come. But Thérèse carried the memory of that smile in her heart forever. As she grew into her teenage years, Thérèse remained extremely sensitive and emotional. She loved God deeply. She prayed, went to Mass, read spiritual books, but she still cried over everything. She still got upset over small things. She felt trapped in childishness and couldn't seem to grow out of it. "When will I be strong?" she wondered. "When will I stop being such a crybaby?" Then, on Christmas Eve in 1886, when Thérèse was 13 years old, everything changed. Christmas Eve had always been special in the Martin family. There was a beautiful tradition. The girls would leave their shoes by the fireplace, and their father would fill them with little presents and candies. Then everyone would gather to open them together before going to midnight Mass. But that Christmas Eve, as the family returned from church, Louis was tired and a bit grumpy. Thérèse, eager and excited, started to rush toward her shoes to see what surprises awaited her. But then she heard her father say to her older sister Marie, "Well, thank goodness this is the last year we'll have to do this. Thérèse is too old for such childish things." Thérèse froze on the stairs, her eyes filled with tears, the usual reaction. She was about to run to her room crying, as she had done 1,000 times before. But then something extraordinary happened. Later, Thérèse would describe it as a miracle, the greatest miracle of her young life, even greater than her physical healing. In an instant, everything changed. It was as if God reached down and touched her heart, transforming her completely. Instead of crying, Thérèse took a deep breath. She wiped her eyes, put a smile on her face, and walked calmly down the stairs. She opened her shoes with joy and exclaimed over each little gift, making her father smile and forget his grumpy mood. "What happened?" Céline whispered to her later, amazed. "I thought you would cry for sure." "I don't know," Thérèse said, wonder in her voice. "It was like I suddenly grew up all at once. Like Jesus took away my sensitivity and gave me strength instead." And it was true. From that Christmas night forward, Thérèse was different. She was still tender-hearted and loving, but she wasn't controlled by her emotions anymore. She had become strong. On that night, Thérèse would later write, "The little Thérèse found once more the strength of soul which she had lost at the age of 4.5, and she was to keep it forever." With this new strength came a new passion. Thérèse began to pray intensely for people who had turned away from God, for sinners, for those who didn't believe, for those who were lost and hurting. There was a famous case in the news at that time, a man named Pranzini who had committed terrible murders and showed no remorse, no regret. He was sentenced to death, and everyone said he would die unrepentant, refusing to turn to God. Thérèse prayed for him desperately. "Jesus," she begged, "please save him. Please touch his heart. Show me that my prayers can help save souls." She prayed and prayed, offering up sacrifices, making little acts of self-denial, all for this man she had never met. The day of Pranzini's execution came, and as he climbed the steps to the guillotine, something happened. At the last possible moment, Pranzini suddenly turned, grabbed the crucifix the priest was holding, and kissed it 3 times. He died with his lips on the image of Jesus. When Thérèse read about this in the newspaper, tears of joy streamed down her face. "My first child," she whispered. Her prayers had helped save a soul. From that moment, she knew with certainty that her life's mission was to pray for others, to help bring people to God through her love and sacrifice. But to do that fully, she needed to become a Carmelite nun, just like Pauline. It was time to pursue that dream. There was just one problem. Thérèse was only 14 years old. "I want to enter the Carmel," Thérèse told her father. "Now, as soon as possible." Louis looked at his youngest daughter, his little queen, and his eyes filled with tears. He knew this day would come. All his daughters seemed called to religious life. Marie and Pauline were already at the Carmel, but Thérèse was so young, barely more than a child. They walked together in the garden, and Louis stopped by some tiny white flowers growing near a wall. He gently pulled one up, roots and all, and gave it to Thérèse. "This is you," he said softly. "A little flower that God planted in a hidden place. He's cared for it tenderly, and now he wants to transplant it somewhere else." Thérèse clutched the little flower, tears in her eyes. Her father understood. He would let her go, even though it would break his heart. But giving permission wasn't the only hurdle. The Carmelite superior, the priest who oversaw the monastery, flatly refused. "Absolutely not," he said. 14 is far too young. Come back when you're 16 at least." Thérèse was heartbroken, but not defeated. "Then I'll go higher," she said. "I'll ask the bishop." The Bishop of Bayeux was a stern, important man. Young girls didn't just walk in and make demands of bishops, but Thérèse, with her father beside her, went to see him anyway. She sat in the bishop's grand office, feeling very small, and poured out her heart. "Your Excellency," she said, "I've wanted to give myself to God since I was 3 years old. I know I'm young, but my desire is strong. Please let me enter the Carmel." The bishop looked at this intense young girl with her golden hair and determined eyes. "The superior has refused," he said. "I must respect his decision. You're too young. Be patient, child." "But," Thérèse started to protest. "The answer is no." Thérèse left the bishop's office in tears. It seemed impossible. Everyone kept saying no. She was too young, too inexperienced, too everything. But Thérèse didn't give up. "If the bishop won't help," she said, "then I'll go to the Pope himself." Her family was shocked. The Pope? In Rome? How could a 14-year-old girl from a small French town possibly get an audience with the Pope? But God had a plan. A pilgrimage to Rome was being organized for French Catholics, and Louis decided to take Thérèse and Céline with him. It would be a wonderful journey. They would see Switzerland, Italy, and the holy sites of Rome. And maybe, just maybe, Thérèse would get a chance to speak to Pope Leo XIII. The journey was marvelous. Thérèse saw snow-covered mountains, beautiful cities, ancient churches, and incredible art. But she kept her eyes fixed on one goal, Rome and the Pope. Finally, in November 1887, the pilgrims were granted an audience with Pope Leo XIII. They filed into a grand hall in the Vatican, and one by one, they approached the Holy Father to receive his blessing. The priest organizing the pilgrimage made a strict announcement: no one is to speak to the Holy Father. Simply kneel, receive his blessing, and move on. Thérèse's heart sank. How could she ask her question if she wasn't allowed to speak? She turned to Céline desperately. "What should I do?" "Speak anyway," Céline whispered. "It's your only chance." When Thérèse's turn came, she knelt before the elderly Pope. Her heart was pounding. The priests beside the Pope were already gesturing for her to move along. But Thérèse raised her eyes to the Pope and spoke in a clear, desperate voice. "Most Holy Father, I have a great favor to ask you." The Pope leaned forward, looking at this bold young girl with interest. "Speak, my child." "Holy Father, in honor of your Jubilee, please let me enter the Carmel at 15. The priests were scandalized. "Your Holiness, this is a matter being handled by her superiors." But Pope Leo XIII held up his hand. He looked deeply into Thérèse's eyes, and she looked back at him, her heart in her gaze. "My child," he said gently, "if God wills it, you will enter." The priests began trying to pull Thérèse away, but she clasped her hands on the Pope's knee, unwilling to let go until she got a clearer answer. "Most Holy Father, if you say yes, everyone will agree." But the Pope simply repeated, "Go, my child. If God wills it, you will enter." Finally, the guards actually had to lift Thérèse up and carry her away. She left in tears, feeling like she had failed. But on the long journey back to France, something in Thérèse's heart settled into peace. The Pope had said, "If God wills it," and Thérèse knew God did will it. She just had to wait for his timing. After Thérèse returned from Rome, the waiting was agonizing. Weeks passed with no news. Christmas came and went, that special Christmas season that had meant so much to her. Then in January, just after Thérèse's 15th birthday, word finally came. The bishop had changed his mind. The superior had agreed. Thérèse could enter the Carmel, not immediately, but after Lent on April 9th, 1888. When the day finally arrived, it was cold and rainy. Thérèse, dressed in a beautiful gown, said goodbye to her father and her family. Louis was crying, but he kissed his little queen one last time. "Come," he said, offering her his arm. "I will take you to the Carmel myself." Together they walked through the rain to the monastery door. When they reached it, Louis knocked. The door opened. Thérèse stepped inside, turned for one last look at her father's tear-stained face, and then the door closed. She was inside. Finally, at last. The Carmelite life was strict and demanding. Thérèse woke at dawn for prayer, spent hours in silence, did manual labor, and followed a rigorous schedule. The nuns wore rough brown habits and sandals. They slept on hard boards with a single blanket. They ate simple food, often not enough to fill their stomachs. But Thérèse was radiantly happy. "I have found my place," she thought. "I'm home." She took her vows and received a new name, Sister Thérèse of the Child Jesus and the Holy Face. She was given her black veil and officially became a Carmelite nun when she was just 16 years old. Life in the Carmel was not easy though. Living in close quarters with the other nuns, Thérèse discovered that religious sisters were just as human as anyone else. Some were kind and gentle, others were difficult and temperamental. There was one older nun in particular who seemed to find fault with everything Thérèse did. If Thérèse prayed a certain way, it was wrong. If she worked a certain way, it was criticized. No matter what she did, this nun seemed irritated by her very presence. The old Thérèse, the sensitive, crying child, might have been devastated, but the new Thérèse responded differently. I will love her, Thérèse decided, not just in my heart, where it's easy, but in my actions. I will smile at her, help her, treat her as if she were Jesus himself. And she did. Every time she saw this difficult nun, Thérèse smiled warmly. Every time the nun needed help, Thérèse was there. Thérèse never showed by word or expression that she found this nun difficult. Years later, this nun would say in amazement, Sister Thérèse must have really loved me. I don't know what she saw in me, but she always seemed so happy to be with me. Thérèse smiled when she heard this. Her little way was working. The little way. This was Thérèse's great discovery, the insight that would eventually make her one of the most beloved saints in the world. One day, Thérèse was praying in the chapel, thinking about holiness. She looked at the great saints, people who had done extraordinary things, performed miracles, converted thousands, endured terrible martyrdoms, and she felt so small. How can I become a saint? She wondered. I can't preach great sermons. I can't travel to foreign lands. I can't do big, impressive things. I'm just little. Then she remembered the little white flower her father had pulled from the garden. Small, simple, growing in a hidden place. That's it, she thought. I'm a little flower. God makes roses and lilies, yes, but he also makes daisies and violets. Every flower is beautiful in its own way. Every flower gives glory to God just by being what it was created to be. Thérèse opened the Bible and read in the Song of Solomon, I am a flower of the field, a lily of the valley. And she read Jesus' words, unless you become like little children, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. It all came together in her mind. She didn't need to do great things. She needed to do small things with great love. This is my little way, she decided, the way of spiritual childhood, the way of doing ordinary things extraordinarily well, the way of love hidden in small actions. What did this look like in practice? When Thérèse was doing laundry and a nun splashed dirty water in her face, instead of getting annoyed, she smiled and said nothing, offering it to Jesus as a small sacrifice. When she was sitting behind a nun in chapel who made annoying clicking noises with her rosary beads, click, 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 driving Thérèse to distraction, she didn't ask her to stop. Instead, she tried to turn the sound into a prayer, offering her annoyance to God. When she served in the refectory, the dining hall, and had to work with a sister who was constantly critical, Thérèse remained cheerful and kind, never showing frustration. When it was her turn to eat and the food ran out before it got to her, leaving her hungry, she simply went without, offering her hunger to Jesus. These seemed like tiny things, and they were. That was the whole point. Thérèse's little way wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic sacrifices. It was about loving God in the small, hidden, ordinary moments of everyday life. I will pick up a pin for love, she said. I will smile when I don't feel like smiling, for love. I will be kind when I'm tired, for love. Every little thing, done with great love, becomes something beautiful for God. But Thérèse's little way went even deeper. It was also about being utterly dependent on God, like a small child with a loving parent. I am too small to climb the stairs to holiness, she wrote in her journal. So I will let Jesus carry me up. I will be his little child, trusting completely in his love, not my own strength. This was revolutionary in her time. Many spiritual books emphasized what you had to do to earn God's love. All the penances, the disciplines, the struggles. Thérèse said something different. You can't earn God's love. You can only receive it like a child receives a parent's embrace. It's not my love for Jesus that matters most, she realized. It's his love for me. I just need to trust it, rest in it, and let it transform me. Her sisters in the Carmel began to notice something special about Thérèse. There was a peace about her, a joy that seemed to bubble up from some deep source within. Even when she was tired or sick or facing difficulties, there was a lightness to her spirit. One day, a novice, a young nun in training, came to Thérèse, discouraged. "I can never be holy," the young sister said. "I'm too weak, too imperfect. I keep making mistakes." Thérèse smiled gently. "That's exactly why you will be holy," she said. "Don't you see? Your weakness is your strength because it makes you rely on God instead of yourself. A little child doesn't worry about being strong enough to walk. She just holds her father's hand and knows he'll keep her safe." "But what about all my faults?" the novice asked. "Offer them to Jesus," Thérèse said simply. "Tell him, 'I'm weak and I make mistakes, but I trust in your mercy.' Love transforms everything. Even our faults can become opportunities for deeper trust." This was Thérèse's gift, making holiness seem not like an impossible achievement for spiritual athletes, but like something accessible to everyone, even the smallest, weakest, most ordinary person. "You don't need to be extraordinary," Thérèse would say. "You just need to be faithful in the little things. Do your ordinary duties with extraordinary love, and you will become a saint." When Thérèse was 23 years old, something terrible happened. Her beloved father Louis, who had been struggling with mental illness and dementia, died. It was a painful loss, but Thérèse found peace in knowing he was now with God, free from suffering. Then, a year later, during Holy Week of 1896, Thérèse began coughing up blood. It was tuberculosis, the disease that was called consumption in those days, a terrible illness that slowly destroyed the lungs. In an era before antibiotics, it was almost always fatal. Thérèse knew immediately what this meant. She was going to die, probably soon. She was only 24 years old. But instead of being afraid, Thérèse felt joy. "I'm going home," she thought. "I'm going to see Jesus face to face. I'm going to heaven." Her sister Pauline, who was now the prioress, leader of the Carmel, called Thérèse to her office. "The sisters want to know about your spiritual life," Pauline said. "Would you write down your memories, your thoughts about your little way? It could help others after you're gone." So Thérèse, growing weaker each day, began to write. She filled notebooks with her memories and her insights. She wrote about her childhood, her family, her conversion, and most importantly, her little way of spiritual childhood. These writings would later become a book called Story of a Soul, one of the most beloved spiritual books ever written. But Thérèse had no idea of that as she sat in her cell, coughing and struggling to hold her pen, pouring out her heart onto the pages. But then something happened that was even more difficult than her physical illness. Thérèse entered into a terrible spiritual darkness. All her life, Thérèse had felt close to God. She had experienced His love, sensed His presence, found joy in her faith. Heaven had seemed so real, so close, so beautiful to her. But now suddenly it was as if a thick darkness descended on her soul. She couldn't feel God's presence anymore. Heaven seemed like a fairy tale, something she had made up. Doubts assailed her mind. What if there is no heaven? What if death is just the end? What if everything you believed is a lie? For someone who had dedicated her entire life to God, who had given up everything to serve Him, this darkness was worse than any physical pain. It was a terrible, agonizing test of faith. Thérèse wrote about it in her journal. "When I sing of heaven's happiness and of possessing God forever, I feel no joy. I sing simply of what I wish to believe." She couldn't see, she couldn't feel, she couldn't sense God at all. All she had was her will, her choice to keep believing, keep trusting, keep loving, even in complete darkness. "Lord," she prayed, "I can't feel you, I can't see you. Everything in me questions if you're even there. but I choose to believe anyway. I choose to trust, not because I feel your presence, but because I have given myself to you, and I will not take that gift back no matter what I feel or don't feel. This went on for months, this terrible darkness combined with increasing physical suffering. The tuberculosis was destroying her lungs. She could hardly breathe. Every breath was painful. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep well. The pain was constant. The other nuns watched in awe as Thérèse continued to smile, continued to be kind, continued to show love even as she suffered. They had no idea of the spiritual darkness she was enduring. She kept it hidden, not wanting to burden anyone. "How are you doing?" the sisters would ask. "I'm fine," Thérèse would say with a smile. "God is good." But in her journal, she wrote honestly, "If you only knew what darkness I am plunged into, I can't even tell you how deep it is." Yet even in this darkness, Thérèse's trust never wavered. She couldn't see God, but she held on to him like a child holding her father's hand in a dark room, unable to see him, but knowing he's there. "I believe," she wrote, "even when I can't feel. I hope, even when everything seems hopeless. I love, even when love brings only pain. This is my offering to God, not my joy, but my trust." As summer turned to autumn in 1897, Thérèse grew weaker and weaker. She was moved to the infirmary, where she lay on a simple cot, struggling for every breath. The other nuns gathered around her often, and Thérèse would talk with them, sharing her thoughts and her little way. Even in her pain, she was teaching, encouraging, loving. One day, one of the nuns said to her, "You'll be so happy in heaven, away from all this suffering." But Thérèse shook her head. "I don't want to just rest in heaven," she said. "I want to continue my mission. I want to spend my heaven doing good on earth." The sisters looked confused. How could she do good on earth after she died? Thérèse smiled. "I will let fall a shower of roses," she said mysteriously. "After my death you will see, I will send down graces like flowers from heaven. I'm not coming to heaven to sit around doing nothing. I'm coming to work, to help souls, to answer prayers, to show people God's love." The nuns didn't quite understand, but they remembered her words. The pain grew worse. Sometimes Thérèse would gasp, "I can't take any more." But then she would whisper, "Yet I wouldn't want any less suffering. Whatever God wills." Her three sisters, Pauline, Marie, and Céline, all nuns in the same Carmel, took turns sitting with her. They watched their baby sister, once so sensitive and tearful, now facing death with incredible courage and trust. On September 30th, 1897, Thérèse's breathing became very labored. The end was near. The community of nuns gathered around her bed, praying. Thérèse looked at the crucifix, the image of Jesus on the cross that she held in her hands. "My God," she whispered, "I love you." Those were her last words. She gazed at the crucifix with a look of profound love and peace, and then she was gone. Saint Thérèse of Lisieux died at 7:20 in the evening, just 24 years old. The nuns wept, but they also felt a strange peace. Thérèse had seemed to see something beautiful at the end. Her face had lit up with joy in those final moments, as if she was seeing someone wonderful that they couldn't see. She was buried in the town cemetery in a simple grave. The nuns thought that would be the end of her story, a holy young sister who had died young, known only to her small community. But they were so wrong. Thérèse's story was just beginning. Remember how Thérèse said she would spend her heaven doing good on earth? Remember the shower of roses she promised? It started almost immediately after her death. The Carmel published Thérèse's autobiography, Story of a Soul, expecting that maybe a few people would read it. Instead, it became a sensation. Thousands of copies were printed, then tens of thousands, then millions. It was translated into dozens of languages. People all over the world read Thérèse's words and found their hearts touched. Her little way spoke to something deep in the human soul. the desire to love God combined with the fear that we're not good enough, strong enough, holy enough. You don't have to be extraordinary, Therese's words seemed to whisper to each reader. Just do small things with great love. Just trust God like a little child. Just be faithful in the ordinary moments. That's enough. That's more than enough. And then the miracles began. People started reporting that when they prayed to Thérèse and asked for her intercession, amazing things happened. Sick people were healed, impossible situations were resolved, hearts were converted, and often people would receive roses, actual flowers, in impossible circumstances, as if Thérèse was sending them a sign. I heard your prayer. I'm helping you. A soldier in World War I, trapped in a trench with bombs exploding all around him, prayed desperately to Thérèse. Suddenly he smelled the powerful scent of roses in the middle of a muddy battlefield. He survived the battle and became a devoted follower of Thérèse's little way. A mother whose child was dying prayed to Thérèse. A single rose appeared on her doorstep the next morning, though no one had delivered it. Her child recovered. Story after story poured in from around the world. The shower of roses Thérèse had promised was falling everywhere. In 1925, just 28 years after her death, Pope Pius XI declared Thérèse a saint. Usually the canonization process takes centuries. For Thérèse, it took less than 3 decades. The Pope called her the greatest saint of modern times. But even more remarkable, in 1997, exactly 100 years after her death, Pope John Paul II declared Thérèse a doctor of the Church. This is one of the highest honors in Catholicism, given to only 37 people in history, and Thérèse was only the 3rd woman to receive it. What does it mean to be a doctor of the Church? It means your teachings are considered so important, so true, so helpful for all Christians that the Church officially recognizes them as wise guidance for everyone. Think about that. A young woman who died at 24, who never went to university, who never left her small monastery, who never wrote theological treatises. This young woman became one of the great teachers of the faith, ranked alongside brilliant theologians and scholars. How? Because she discovered something profoundly true. That holiness isn't about being impressive. It's about being love. Today, Saint Thérèse of Lisieux is one of the most beloved saints in the world. Her autobiography has sold millions of copies. Churches and schools are named after her. People from every continent pray to her and report receiving her help. She is the patron saint of missionaries, even though she never left her monastery. Why? Because her prayers and her example have inspired countless missionaries to go out and share God's love with the world. She is the patron saint of florists because of all those roses. She is the patron saint of people with tuberculosis and other illnesses because she suffered so much and showed how to unite suffering with Christ's love. But most of all, she is the patron saint of ordinary people trying to live holy lives in ordinary circumstances. Parents changing diapers, students doing homework, workers at their jobs, anyone who feels small, unimportant, or not special enough to make a difference. You are special enough, Thérèse's life proclaims. Your little actions matter. Your hidden sacrifices count. Your quiet faithfulness is seen by God. Don't despise the day of small things. In God's eyes, nothing done with love is small. And now, dear child, as your eyes grow heavy and sleep begins to call you, let's think about what Thérèse's story means for you. You might feel small sometimes. You might think, I'm just a kid. I can't do anything important. I can't change the world. But Thérèse felt the same way. I'm just a little flower, she thought. I'm too small to do great things. And yet look what happened. Her little way touched millions of lives. Her simple trust changed hearts all over the world. Her small acts of love created ripples that are still spreading today, more than 125 years after her death. You can follow the little way too, not by becoming a nun, unless God calls you to that, but by doing your ordinary life with extraordinary love. When you do your chores without complaining, even when you don't feel like it, that's the little way. When you're kind to someone who's annoying you, even when it's hard, that's the little way. When you do your schoolwork carefully, offering it to God as your gift to Him, that's the little way. When you share with your brother or sister, even when you don't want to, that's the little way. When you smile at someone who looks sad, that's the little way. When you pray before bed, trusting that God hears you and loves you, that's the little way. Every little thing done with love becomes something beautiful. Every small act of kindness is like a flower you're offering to God. And just like Therese's roses, these little offerings can spread their fragrance everywhere. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. Therese wasn't perfect either. She made mistakes, got frustrated, struggled with difficult feelings, but she always turned back to God, trusting in His love rather than her own perfection. I'm little and weak, you can tell Jesus, but I trust you to love me anyway. I trust you to help me. I trust you to make something beautiful out of my small life. And you know what? Years from now, when you look back on your life, you might be amazed at how those small acts of love added up to something wonderful. You might see how your little way touched other people's lives in ways you never even knew about. Maybe someone will remember how you smiled at them on a hard day, and that smile gave them courage to keep going. Maybe someone will remember how you were kind to them when others weren't, and that kindness changed their whole day. Maybe your prayers for someone will be answered in ways you'll never see, but they'll be answered. That's how the little way works. Small acts of love multiplied over a lifetime become something magnificent. As you drift off to sleep tonight, imagine yourself as one of God's little flowers in His great garden, which is exactly what you are. Maybe you're a daisy, simple and cheerful. Maybe you're a violet, small and sweet. Maybe you're a sunflower, bright and warm. It doesn't matter what kind of flower you are. What matters is that you're exactly the flower God created you to be. And tomorrow when you wake up, you can bloom right where you're planted. You can spread your fragrance in your own home, in your own school, in your own neighborhood. You don't need to be anywhere else or anyone else. You just need to be you, doing little things with great love. Therese is in heaven now, fully alive and fully happy, surrounded by the love she always trusted was there even when she couldn't feel it. And the tradition says she's still scattering her roses, still helping people who pray to her, still teaching her little way to anyone who will listen. After my death, she said, I will let fall a shower of roses. And she has. Oh, how she has. Maybe tonight as you sleep, you'll dream of gardens filled with flowers, each one unique and beautiful. Maybe you'll dream of a young woman with a peaceful smile, holding an armful of roses, ready to share them with anyone who needs them. And maybe when you wake tomorrow, you'll remember that you too can scatter roses, roses of kindness, roses of love, roses of small faithful acts that make the world more beautiful. You are God's little flower, dear child. Never forget that. And like Therese, you are called not to be great in the world's eyes, but to be great in love. That's all that matters. That's everything that matters. Sleep peacefully now, little one. Dream sweet dreams of gardens and roses, of heaven and love, of small things becoming beautiful through grace. Saint Thérèse, the little flower, is praying for you. And so is Jesus, who loves little children and little flowers with a love that never ends. Sweet dreams, the end and the beginning of your own little way.